Have you ever found yourself frozen, unable to respond when someone insults or criticizes you? You're not alone, and the effects go far deeper than you think. Hello, I'm Dr. Emily, and I'm on a mission to uncover the hidden psychological traps that hold us back from reaching our full potential. And one of those traps is the paralyzing silence we often experience when faced with criticism or insults. As a certified psychologist and self-development coach, I've seen countless individuals struggle with this issue. So, I know what I'm talking about when I say this seemingly small habit can have profound effects on your self-confidence and overall well-being. But when it comes to our emotional responses, whether you're dealing with a harsh boss, a critical friend, or even an internet troll, it's worth understanding that our reactions aren't always as straightforward as we might think. And so, without further ado, let's dive deep into the psychology of this freeze response and uncover ways to break free from its grip. You know, when I first started my practice, I couldn't believe how common this issue was. I mean, here were successful, intelligent people who could command boardrooms and lead teams. But the moment someone threw a barbed comment their way, they'd freeze up like a deer in headlights. It was as if their usual eloquence and quick thinking had suddenly abandoned them. And it's not just in professional settings. I've seen it happen in personal relationships, social gatherings, even in online interactions. It's a universal experience that transcends age, gender, and social status. But why does this happen? Well, let's break it down. When we're insulted or criticized, our brain perceives it as a threat. It's not just about the words. It's about what those words represent. A challenge to our self-worth, our competence, our very identity. And when faced with a threat, our brain has three primary responses: fight, flight, or freeze. Now, in prehistoric times, freezing might have been a useful survival tactic when faced with a predator. But in our modern world of social interactions and professional challenges, it's about as helpful as a chocolate teapot. This freeze response isn't just uncomfortable in the moment. It can have long-lasting effects on our self-confidence. Every time we fail to stand up for ourselves, every moment we spend in silent shock while someone else belittles us, we're sending a message to our subconscious. And that message is, I'm not worthy of defense. I don't have the right to speak up. Over time, this can erode our self-esteem, making us more susceptible to future criticism and less likely to assert ourselves in other areas of life. But here's the kicker. This isn't just about the big, obvious insults. It's also about the subtle jabs, the backhanded compliments, the passive-aggressive comments that we often let slide. Each time we do, we're reinforcing this pattern of silence and submission. It's like we're training ourselves to be emotional punching bags. And let me tell you, that's not a great career path. Now, I know what you're thinking. Dr. Emily, this all sounds pretty grim. Is there any hope for us freeze-prone folks? And I'm here to tell you, absolutely. In fact, I've developed a technique inspired by an unlikely source, samurai philosophy. But before we get to that, let's dive a little deeper into why this happens and how it affects us. You see, this freeze response isn't just a momentary blip in our social interactions. It's a deeply ingrained psychological pattern that can have far-reaching consequences. When we consistently fail to defend ourselves, we're not just losing face in that particular moment. We're gradually chipping away at our self-worth, our confidence, and our ability to assert ourselves in all areas of life. Think about it this way. Imagine you're building a house. and every time someone criticizes your work, you stop building for a while. You might eventually finish the house, but it's going to take a lot longer, and you'll probably have some serious doubts about your abilities as a builder. That's what happens to our self-confidence when we consistently freeze in the face of criticism or insults. But it gets worse. This pattern doesn't just affect how we see ourselves, it affects how others see us too. When we consistently fail to stand up for ourselves, we're sending a message to the world that we're easy targets. It's like wearing a sign that says, "Feel free to walk all over me. I won't do anything about it." And unfortunately, there are people out there who are all too happy to oblige. So, how do we break this cycle? How do we reclaim our inner power and stop feeling small in front of others? Well, that's where our samurai-inspired technique comes in. But before we get to that, let's talk about the root of this emotional paralysis. At its core, this freeze response is often rooted in fear. Fear of conflict, fear of making things worse, fear of not having the right words, fear of being judged even more harshly. And here's the thing about fear. It's not always rational. Our brains are wired to avoid perceived threats, even when those threats aren't actually dangerous. An insult might sting, but it's not going to physically harm us. Yet, our brains often react as if we're facing a life-or-death situation. Understanding this is the first step towards overcoming it. When we recognize that our freeze response is just our brain trying to protect us from a perceived threat, we can start to challenge that perception. We can remind ourselves that words, while they may hurt, don't have the power to physically harm us. We can choose to see criticism not as an attack, but as an opportunity for growth, or in some cases, as a reflection of the other person's insecurities, rather than our own failings. Now, let's talk about that samurai-inspired technique I mentioned earlier. The samurai were known for their unwavering composure in the face of danger. They practiced something called mushin, or no mind, a state of mental clarity and readiness. And while we're not facing literal sword fights in our daily lives, we can apply this principle to our emotional battles. Here's how it works. The next time you feel that freeze response coming on, take a deep breath and imagine yourself as a samurai warrior. Picture yourself standing tall, sword in hand, ready for whatever comes your way. Now, instead of seeing the insult or criticism as an attack, see it as a challenge, an opportunity to demonstrate your strength and composure. Then, use this simple 3-step process. First, acknowledge the comment without judgment. You might say something like, "I hear what you're saying." Second, pause for a moment. This gives you time to gather your thoughts and shows that you're in control of the conversation. Third, respond calmly and assertively. You might choose to address the criticism directly, or you might decide it doesn't warrant a response. The key is that you're making a conscious choice rather than freezing up. This technique isn't about having the perfect comeback or winning an argument. It's about maintaining your composure and self-respect in the face of criticism or insults. It's about showing yourself and others that you're not an easy target, that you have the inner strength to face challenges head-on. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but Dr. Emily, this sounds easier said than done. And you're right. Like any skill, this takes practice. You might not get it perfect the first time, or even the 10th time. But each time you try, you're building your emotional resilience. You're rewiring your brain to respond with strength rather than fear. And here's the beautiful thing. As you practice this technique, You'll start to notice changes, not just in how you respond to criticism, but in how you feel about yourself overall. You'll start to carry yourself with more confidence. You'll be more willing to speak up in meetings, to share your ideas, to set boundaries in your relationships. You'll start to see yourself as someone who's worthy of respect and capable of handling whatever life throws your way. This journey isn't just about learning to respond to insults. It's about reclaiming your power, about refusing to let others define your worth. It's about recognizing that you have a voice that deserves to be heard and the strength to use it. So, the next time you feel that freeze response coming on, remember, you're not helpless. You're not at the mercy of others' words or opinions. You have the power to choose how you respond. You have the strength of a samurai warrior within you, ready to face any challenge with composure and grace. That's it for this video. Let me know in the comments below about your experiences with the freeze response and how you've dealt with it. Have you tried any techniques to overcome it? What worked for you? Remember, we're all in this together, and sharing our experiences can help others on their journey to self-confidence. I'm Dr. Emily, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more insights into psychology and personal development. Thank you to my patrons for making these videos possible. If you'd like to support this channel and help me continue providing these psychological insights, you can do so at patreon.com/Dr. Emily. Until next time, remember, you are stronger than you think, and every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Goodbye, and stay confident.